Many of you do not know me because I'm a newcomer to your church. But I'm not a newcomer to your guest today. Nanette came to me for reading about 3 years ago, and for the first time since I had lost my psychic twin sister, I found another. It's like God replaced my sister. She's wonderful. It would take me the whole 30 minutes to go over Nanette's accomplishments. But most of you know her, not as a channel per se in voice, but in her art. She has recognized paintings all over the world, and some politicians, I believe, own them just to show her prestige. She's also co-producer of a fairly new film on prophecy called The White Buffalo. You may have heard about it, you may not, but Nanette will tell you. And the very last thing I want to say, she got within her own heart the desire to go to the Holy Lands, to Carmel, at a specific cycle, both of the moon and the positions of the planet. Called me up. I wish I could have gone, but that was not possible. But she took me in spirit and asked me today if I would introduce her as she tells you all about Carmel and her relationship to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. She really is a soul sister. And this is one of the best intuitives in the country, if not the world, for earth changes. She has gone public with her predictions and is at least 85% accurate. Thank you. I'm honored. I want to thank everybody for being here, especially those of you who are here for the first time, and I hope that you'll be coming back in the future. We always have interesting speakers. I think I'm going to defer the meditation until after we're finished with this, because I want you to be able to focus totally on experiencing the trip to Carmel with me and why I did it and how it all happened, because it can happen for you too, and what the reasons for going are very, very significant for our time. As many of you know, I had been through a series of 10 deaths in the family, and my twin soul passed a little over a year ago. And I had gone to Hawaii a few times, and partly to heal, but partly also to anchor the light there and work with stabilizing the center of the Pacific Ring of Fire. And wherever I go, there's always this other spiritual agenda that the spiritual guidance is encouraging me to help those that are working there in those areas. So I thought I'd be going back to Hawaii this past February. And sure enough, I was praying and meditating about what to do, and God said to me, I need you to go to Mount Carmel. If there's any place in the world right now that's the most important place, is Mount Carmel, Israel. And I knew that Mount Carmel was a holy mountain. I knew that the Essenes had established a community there. They were the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls, for those of you who aren't familiar with that. And I knew that Elijah had established the school of the prophets there. But I did not know that it was the holiest mountain in the world. And I'm going to show you later on why that is and how that's happened, and share with you not only the history of Mount Carmel and why it's been kept secret all this time, but also why it's important for our time and our lives to to heal the planet today and to avert a world war. That's why you are here today, is to hear about that. Mount Carmel, since prehistoric times, they have found in archaeological digs that it has had civilization and cave people living there since at least 600,000 years. Probably older, they just haven't gotten down deep enough to discover it. Mount Carmel has witnessed the rise and fall of Lemuria, Hyperborea, Atlantis, Mu as we call it, and of course all of what happened in Israel. And the people that lived there, they found out, were Cro-Magnon, Neanderthals, and archaic Homo sapiens, right up until about 10,000 BC. And they lived together in harmony, and they did not interbreed. Some of the first things ever discovered in all of ancient history were discovered in Mount Carmel. The first jewelry, which we all like, that they were made from shells. The first flowers and ceremonial burials for the people that lived in the caves. The first ritual feasts for celebrating the passing of the celestial send-off of their relatives. And what happened is, we know that when Abraham came into the Holy Lands, he was greeted by the great Melchizedek, who was known as the High Priest of Salem, which was early Jerusalem. And Melchizedek taught Abraham. He initiated him, as Jesus later did with his disciples, in the ritual of holy bread and holy wine. And Melchizedek, apparently, according to the Edgar Cayce readings, was able to establish an early school of the prophets there, and they were called Yahwehists. I haven't the time to give you all the references for the material that I'm going to cite today, but I can tell you that through revelation and guidance, I've been given everything that I'm going to tell you about in writing that is verifiable. I may receive something through seeing the Akashic record, through visions, but you're going to see it happen today. And you can talk to me after the talk about any specifics. The Edgar Cayce readings were remarkable in that they talked about the Essenes and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Josephus had mentioned him in the ancient writers about this remarkable group that in about 300 BC established their school of the prophets on Mount Carmel. That was after Elijah had begun a school of the prophets. Well before that, when he confronted the priests of Baal. What had happened was that mountain had been kept so holy that no one was allowed there unless they were initiated, unless they were practicing sacred ways. And when Pythagoras had come there, he was going to all the mystery school centers. And these sailors dropped him off and came back to pick him up, and they had intention to sell him into slavery. And Pythagoras came off the mountain with white light emanating from his head, and they were afraid to touch him. And so he writes about this, and so do the ancient historians, because he was initiated by the school of the prophets there. And he went through becoming one with God, that divine union that I had when I was 21, and every one of you are destined to have. Hopefully in this life, not waiting until we go through our near-death experience or our afterlife experience. And when we go through the meditation today, I'm going to share with you the meditations that I have used to help facilitate that. Coming back to Elijah, we're going to see some pictures of where Elijah casts out the priests of Baal. I did not know this until I did some research, but Elijah apparently was in the middle of a real conflict because the king of Israel had married Jezebel, and she was turning the whole country into worshiping the priest, the god Baal, who was a devouring god, and they were practicing human sacrifice and infanticide and having orgies on this holy mountain. And so there was a showdown because Elijah said, "It's not going to rain. You're going to have a drought here until you stop doing what you're doing." Sound familiar? You haven't heard it, But that's what's happening on our West Coast. And I'm not saying they're practicing human sacrifice, but there definitely are some things going on that should not be going on. And not only on the West Coast. So there was a confrontation, and the priest of Baal said, we're going to look for you and hunt you down and kill you until you stop the drought, because it's your fault. And so he hid underground, and I'm going to show you where he hid, in a little cave where there was a hole in the top, and he could slide the rock either way, so that he could receive food from a trained raven who brought him food every day. And that was the only entrance, so they couldn't find him. I used to joke that maybe he trained that raven to go steal the food off of Jezebel's table and bring it back to him. So we were there. In fact, it was the very first place where we went. And I want to acknowledge and thank Gary and his wife, the Blauerts, who are here today, because there were supposed to be 4 of us going on this trip, but not everybody could come. And Janice said, Gary, you should go with Nanette, and you should take the pictures, and you should assist her. And I only got the message a few weeks before it was time to go, as it stood. And so I said, God, how am I supposed to go to Mount Carmel? I don't know anybody who's leading a trip there. And I thought about this professor. He canceled his trip, and God said to me, watch the movie Ben-Hur. So I watched the movie Ben-Hur. Interesting, I knew the man whose uncle had written Ben-Hur, and I knew a little bit of the story. But while I'm watching the movie, I'm hearing, Google Ben-Hur. There really is a house of Hur. So I Googled Ben-Hur, and boop, up pops Raphael Ben-Hur. Raphael Ben-Hur, it turns out, is the tourism director for all of Israel. So I emailed him, and he calls me on the phone, very excited, and he says, how can I help you in what you're doing? I now have my own tourism company. I've retired from the other position, but I know everybody in Israel. And he says, what would you like to do? Would you like me to get a big group together with you? I said, no, I want to have a nice, quiet, small group on Mount Carmel to meditate and pray and anchor the light there, because I feel that it's a very important time. At that point, the deal with Iran was being made. Bibi Netanyahu was just coming over here after I got the word to make this trip, to speak to Congress about the seriousness of the threat of the situation of them being surrounded by hostile forces, as well as those planning to create weapons of mass destruction that could hit the United States. So he said, well, why would you want to spend a whole week on Carmel and only another week for the rest of Israel? And I said, because it's the holiest mountain in the world. And he said, well, why do you say that? So I told him some of what I told you. And then I said to him, not only that, but my ancestors were part of that group 2,000 years ago, who were in the school of the prophets there. And Mother Mary and Jesus were educated on Carmel in those schools. And he said, you want to anchor the light. Are you a Kabbalist? I said, I used to teach mystical Kabbalah. And he said, I'll do anything you want to help you. So Raphael, bless his heart, he winds up giving us an excellent guide, and we went with a priest and a couple of other people from Kenya, all over all the holy sites in Jerusalem, and I wish I had time to show them all to you today, but I'm only going to focus on those where the miracles happened, because everywhere we went, every city, every town, every sacred site, about every 10th site, I would say, we had a miracle or a manifestation. And I brought some of those things with me today for you to see. And when you step out and you're in alignment with God's will, you will always have synchronicities. You will always have people come to you. You will always have coincidences, as it's called, that are going to encourage you on the path. And that's why I'm sharing this with you, because not only did I have a series of synchronicities, but also manifestations that were truly miraculous. And they are not just for me, they are for everyone to know. Because right before that, I was feeling very depressed, very sad, very almost in despair, not only because of my personal situation, but because of what I saw in the world in general and the direction we were heading in, and thinking, what good does it do if I go back to painting, I go back to doing all the spiritual things I love now after a long sabbatical? What good does it do no matter what else we do with our lives? If there's an Armageddon, it's game over. We have to start from scratch. And I couldn't bear the thought of seeing people suffering and animals suffering and children. I couldn't even bear what's going on with ISIS right now. If I'd been young enough, I'd have been over there. I'm not kidding. I'd be over there. And we're going to be rescuing some of the women and children that are there now in the future, in the near future. There's already groups buying them back. We can't always just bomb a problem away, but we can love bomb it. We can love bomb it, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So Raphael arranged for us to see all the sites, many of which he was not even familiar with. And it was my dream and my desire to stay at the Carmelite monastery. I had never seen Mount Carmel. I had never seen a good picture of Mount Carmel. But many years ago, when I had painted the picture of Mother Mary, through a vision of her, instead of just her face and child as I had seen initially, she conveyed to me that I should paint her with these big, beautiful trees in the background, this stream running by, and these pink roses in front of her. And I had never seen those things either, nor did I expect they were in Israel, because I thought of it as very dry. In those days it was more moist. But Mount Carmel is different than the rest of Israel. It has been called God's Paradise Garden. By the Egyptians, it was named God's Cloak, God's Most Holy Mountain, and this is written in their ancient writings. So we had all the ancient peoples, the Syrians, the Egyptians, the Greeks through Pythagoras, and the Israeli prophets, the children of the law of one that had come down from Atlantis through time immemorial, worshiping the one God, not only became the Israelites, but today are the Druze people that are still living on Mount Carmel. And I wanted to stay at Stella Maris Convent and Monastery because it is right where Mother Mary's chapel is, and also right where Elijah's caves are. But I didn't think there was any way to do it, didn't know how to get in touch with the guest house there. I'd heard they had one because it was only for Catholics. Well, our guide Raphael didn't know either, our host, but when he asked the guide to take us, he says, no, you don't want to put them in a hotel. You want to put them in the guest house at Stella Maris. So he did. He arranged for us to stay there, and the sisters were so beautiful, and we got to go whenever we wanted into their lovely church and hear the ancient songs that maybe I'll get for you in the future on the next trip, that are the songs that are the holy songs, because they inherited the tradition from the children of the law of one, down through the Yahwehists, down through Elijah and the school of the prophets, down through Mother Mary's people and the Essenes, down through the early Essene Christians, right up until today. There were hermits when the first Christian missionaries came from Europe there, and Catholics, and they learned these things. They keep it to themselves, but we were privileged to learn some of that while we were there. It's changed a bit. They've had to stretch it a little bit to accommodate the modern world, but not very much. There's another thing that I only discovered this week about Mount Carmel. In the apocryphal book called the Book of Adam and Eve, and another one called the Book of the Bee, it describes how Adam and Eve, after the fall and they were cast out of the original Garden of Eden, they came to a holy mountain. And they lived there with Abel and Seth. And Cain was down on the plains below. This mountain is described over and over again as the most holy place in the Holy Lands, where they sang continually, where they had a garden of luxurious food and vegetables, and where they tried to keep it sacred. And they were told generation after generation, do not go down into the plains with Cain's people and his descendants, because they are corrupted. Eventually they did, but while they were there, Eve gave birth to Abel and Seth in the caves that are describing Mount Carmel. You will not hear this anywhere else, but when you go home, check out the book of Adam and Eve and the book of the bees. And that is only one of many reasons that this is the holiest mountain in the world. While we were there, I said to Raphael, he drove 2.5 hours to see us more than once and to take us to the Baha'i Gardens and the Baha'i Center, which is the mystical unification religion of Islam, but it is totally all-embracing of all faiths. And he took us there, which is also on Mount Carmel. And I said to him, you know, the ancients did not allow anybody to build on Carmel, and now they're building all over the place. Up Carmel, every kind of thing, and it's not being kept holy. And it broadcasts this energy throughout the country and throughout the world. And he said, so you think we shouldn't be building on Carmel? This is a 25-mile long mountain. I said, yeah. And so it's too late to stop all that. But there are those that are holding certain portions of the ground sacred. They're holding the light there. And I think above all others are those beautiful brothers and sisters at Stella Maris. While I was there, what happened was the sisters who were hosting us brought us the best food and just absolutely loved and served us in every way they could. And finally I said to the sisters, I will have a message from Mother Mary for you. And they said to me, we are her hands, we are her mouth, we are her feet. I said, yes, you are. And that's what we all need to be now. That's what we all need to be now. Mother Mary's role throughout history, since she has gone into the spiritual world, has been to reconcile the nations. When she appeared in Fatima and Lourdes and warned about what would happen if the Pope did not consecrate Russia, we saw what happened when it went communist. And my own ancestors on my mother's side were killed. Many of them, many people, hundreds of millions. When she appeared in Zaytun, Egypt, to 1.5 million people over 1.5 years during our lifetime, people couldn't hear what she was saying. This time she wants to appear in Israel, and she wants everybody to be able to hear what she has to say, to reconcile the nations and say, stop fighting now. You are all my children. Mother Mary is the only woman for whom an entire chapter in the Quran is dedicated to her. Anyone who doesn't comply would be obviously exposed. This is what the message was that I got while I was there. And this is the message I want to share with you today. I checked with all the best intuitives that I know, including some that you know here, when I got this message that we were on the precipice of World War III. And they all agreed. Some of them have already given up. Some of them are moving into other countries, hoping that the fallout doesn't catch them there. But I also checked with God and with the spiritual hierarchy. And there is something we can do about it. There is something we can do about it. And the conclusion of our pictures, I'm going to share with you what that is, because it involves all of you. We are not powerless. And I want to introduce Mary Mann here. Mary has been helping me with the Crist Church and with the Crist art, and she has very kindly agreed to come today to help present just a few of the pictures out of the hundreds that we had from our visit to Israel and Mount Carmel, so you can take the trip with me right up the mountain. And we're going to start first in the beginning. We were told that we needed to be there for March 20th, which was the total solar eclipse, the Jewish Holy New Year, and the new moon, and several other things, all conjuncting at the same time. And Mount Carmel has something also to do with the planet Venus and alignments with that. And that was only a couple weeks to plan a trip and get over there. And that we needed to do special prayers on Mount Carmel on the promontory that overlooks the Mediterranean Sea and the gardens below. So what we did was we created a 10-sided figure of sacred geometry, and we wrote inside of it our prayer request. The prayer request was, of course, for peace throughout the world, centered on God, unity and harmony, no more wars. And if you could turn, can you all see okay with this light on, or do we need to turn that? Yeah, turn that one off too, please. That's good. Now, when we arrived that first day and were driven over there to do our ceremony and prayers, we sat on the edge of the mountain, and as you can see, there's beautiful wildflowers going all the way down to the cave where Elijah hid. It's a little cave under that dome, and beyond that's the Mediterranean. And I was feeling God's sadness because it was raining that day. In the Bible it says God was grieved in his heart that he'd made man after the fall. And I felt sad too because it was kind of overcast and drizzly, and we went out there, it wasn't raining on us, but it was overcast. And as we did our hour of prayers and meditation, just at the moment when I invoked God's blessing on our prayer request and put my hand on the center of the 10-sided figure on the rock at our feet, the sun came out. And Gary will tell you, he's smiling. This is what happened that day. That was the first manifestation. Okay, you go next one. And there you are with a close-up of that place, which is generally locked, but you can get permission to go in there and see. Okay. And who watched us? You remember the ravens I told you about who were feeding Elijah? The ravens, well, they're gray and black over there. The raven came to watch us. You can get the next one. There he is. That's one of Elijah's raven's descendants come to see his descendants. Okay. And then we went to Bethlehem. And in Bethlehem, this is the spot where Mother Mary gave birth to Jesus. And as I knelt down to thank her for all that she did, that no one will ever know what she went through, and I said a prayer and touched it, I got back up again, and Gary said, I'll take your picture. Would you touch it again? So I turned around and touched it again, next one. And when I stood up, my hands were covered in oil. I didn't even know about that manifestation. Both hands covered with oil. It was amazing. I touched it and got back up, and it was completely covered in oil. So this is the picture of him. I'm saying to Gary, my hands are all covered with oil. I was physical oil. So I gave him some too. Okay, next one. Okay, we went to Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were. And if you can see my hand down here, I'm pointing to two of the caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, where the Essenes originally lived. Next one. And then we went to, oh, by the way, I didn't put the picture up, but I did find a rock at Qumran that has pre-Aramaic writing on it. And I have to get an ancient writing expert to look at it. I got a picture of it. I couldn't bring the whole rock back, but we're going to find out what it says at the Essene community. And this is the fisherman who's playing St. Peter, throwing the net out, and he challenged us to walk on water. Go ahead, next one. And this is the River Jordan, where we baptized. This is the real part where Jesus and John the Baptist were baptizing. It's very narrow there, it's muddy, and it was very strange because after we got done baptizing, we look across the river, and there's this radical Muslim man, and he is really hostile, yelling and hollering and preaching and everything. And I was just sending him love. Next one. And then the chauffeur, this was one of our greeters as we were entering into the old city of Jerusalem, blowing the shofar. Next one. And here we are. We went into the room where the Last Supper had occurred. This is our guide, and this is the priest and his two congregants from Kenya who accompanied us through the old city. And while we were the only ones in the room, except Gary, who's taking the picture here. And while we're standing there, we had looked around the whole room. It was very barren. I looked on the floor. I looked on the walls. I'm an artist. I notice everything. He was talking about how it had changed since the Islamic people had rebuilt it. And I said, but there's still an angel of the Christ presence here. And I closed my eyes to pray, and he did too. And when we opened our eyes, there was an olive branch at my feet, out of nowhere. And I brought that back. You're not allowed to bring live plants. Here I am holding the olive branch. So I dried it out and put it in a jar of hyssop, which is a dried herb that you can bring back here. Next one. And this is when we went to the Temple Mount. This is the only time that there was actually some issues. A man came up to me waving his finger and shaking his finger at me, and he was Arab, and he said, "Are you a Christian? What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm an American." And then he says, "Are you Arab?" And I knew no matter what I said, he was going to give me a hard time. And I just put my hand up to bless him and walked over and stood between the men and stayed between them for the rest of the stay there at the Temple Mount. Go ahead, next one. So when I went up to the Wailing Wall, which is all that's really left of the original temple, to pray, on one side was all the women and the other side was all the men. Now picture, there's women seated like this in front of the wall all the way around. I don't see a place for me to even reach over them. I couldn't reach that far. So God says, walk around, and I walked around, and there was a space that opened up. So I stood in there and prayed and asked God, please show us the way that we might have peace on earth for the first time, that there doesn't have to be an Armageddon. Please accept my prayers. Show me what I can do. And I heard, there was a white dove right over my head, in the wall, in the niche, if you would go to the next one. And when I prayed more, her maid, there was two of them. Yeah, go to the next one. That is the dove of peace. I didn't see a white dove anyplace else in the Holy Lands. And as we walked through the old city of Jerusalem, right there in another niche was this beautiful musician who was a dove of peace too. And she was playing the most exquisite songs from the time of King David. Okay. Then we went to see where Elijah had cast out the priests of Baal. And actually, he brought down fire from heaven. I don't have time to tell you how he did it, but I figured out how he did it. And he actually did something that was so traumatic that it looked like the whole top section of the mountain had been blown up when we got there. There was little pieces just everywhere, everywhere. It must have been quite a dramatic fire from heaven event. And this is Elijah casting out the priests of Baal. And right after Elijah did that, he said to his disciples, I have had a vision that's not in the Old Testament, but it is in the Carmelite writings and the Apocryphal writings and some of the things that didn't make it into the Bible, some of those ancient writings. He actually had a vision of the Messiah who was to come and Mother Mary. That's what inspired him to recreate the School of the Prophets. And there we are at the vista below. And actually you can see almost all of what goes beyond there. Down below are the plains of Megiddo. Does anybody know what the plains of Megiddo are? That's where the sons of Cain went. That's where there have been many major battles in modern and ancient history And that's where Armageddon is scheduled to occur, either ideologically or physically. That's up to us. So on one side, there's Mount Carmel, there's the Mediterranean Sea, and on the other side, there's the plains of Megiddo. Go ahead. There we are. Next one. And then we went back to the Stella Maris Monastery, and this is from the rooftop, the beautiful sunset and the convent. This is right in front of the church at Stella Maris. It's actually a memorial for some people who had died there, given their lives. It's a pyramid. Okay. And here's when you sit inside the Stella Maris Church, in the pews, you're looking right into the cave of Elijah. Not the one where he hid from Jezebel, but the one where he lived. Right there at the bottom, and there's a little statue of Elijah, and then there's a platform, and above it is the high altar, and Mother Mary and Jesus' statue. Okay. And then I asked to see, it's called Wadi Sia. Most people don't know about it, but the Wadi Sia is actually the ruins of the original Essene community from 2,000 years ago and more on Carmel, which is in a different place than, but nearby, where Stella Maris was. And when we went to Wadi Sia, I specifically wanted to see the holy waters there that were the initiatory waters and the healing waters. And we saw babies being dunked in different pools. Some of the pools were so big, they were big enough to be a swimming pool, and they were still using them like a swimming pool, the little village that was near there. But this is the one that is the holiest of the Elijah Spring. And Gary brought little things from everybody that they wanted blessed and dunked into the water. So there we are at Elijah Spring. Go ahead. And this is one of the caves. There were several caves around Wadi Sia, which is in a ravine. And apparently because they believed it was so holy, you should not build a home on it or anything else. They only lived in the caves, or if there was a lot of people coming, they would put up tents. Go ahead. And this is part of Wadi Sia. That's what's left of a Byzantine chapel that is on top of the original Essene temple. You notice I said temple, not synagogue, because the Essenes believed, they were the third group. There was the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. They believed that the Zadokites, who were from Melchi Zadok, were the righteous ones that were keeping pure and keeping the real tradition of the children of the law of one. So they had a separate temple here. And this is where Jesus and Mother Mary were trained and initiated as children. And amazingly, while I was there and right before, I found out there's actually some Catholic records about that as an oral tradition that has come down to us. So it's not just Edgar Cayce saying it, but I verified Edgar Cayce's writings. They said Mother Mary's parents and Jesus' parents brought them there to learn, to do the amazing things they did for the world. Next one. Yeah, we can't see it there. Go to the next one. No, wrong way. Okay, one more. There we go. So here's the Essene well at the bottom, and just beyond that is the really big mikvahs, and beyond that, at the top of the screen, is the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, next one. Here's a better view of it. The sea is so blue, it's bluer than what I'm wearing on a sunny day. It's really that color that's described as Mother Mary blue. And so is the sky. And everywhere are wildflowers and fruits and herbs. It's just amazing. Next one. And then we went back to Stella Maris. This is the sunset that the sister took a picture of for us, overlooking the sea and the gardens there. Next one. Now outside Stella Maris were the Stations of the Cross, not the original ones, but a representation. And in these Stations of the Cross, they had painted on tiles. And some radical Muslim had gotten in there and broken every face off of every single tile. So the sister said to me, "Since you're an artist, could you please paint it for us? Could you see if you could fix it?" I couldn't fix it because the tiles had to be replaced. So I told them they needed to go back to Italy to get the tiles, and many of them were from Italy. So we're climbing up the hillside in the garden, going through the Stations of the Cross, and we're talking, and as I came back down, I got the message not to talk, just to listen, observe, and be quiet. So go to the next one. And as we come down, I'm going to share this with you. As we come down, oftentimes, we pick up little rocks that want to remind us of that place. I wasn't inspired to pick up rocks. I feel the thing that reminds me the most of the light in heaven is things that are iridescent. And I love iridized things. We're climbing down, and I'm looking at the ground under my feet, and there is a piece of glass that's iridized glass. And there was a washout from the layers of ruins and stones above us that had come down the hill. And here's this glass that is 2,000-year-old Roman glass. I found out that where we were staying at Stella Maris was not only the location where Jesus and Mother Mary were trained, and this place that I just showed you, but also that right where Stella Maris is, on Mount Carmel, is where she brought a group of holy women, especially young women, to Carmel to teach them the holy ways after Jesus was crucified. And when Mother Mary made her transition into the next world, St. James, her son, Jesus' brother, came there and built a chapel to her. We have reason to believe that that piece of glass is from that chapel. I really wanted to keep it, but I didn't want to keep it if it wasn't the right thing to do. So I brought it to the sisters, and I said, "Sisters, I found this in your garden at the Stations of the Cross. And if you want it for your museum, you can have it." And Sister Maria looked at me and she said, "Where did you find it?" So I told her, and she said, "Blessed Mother wants you to have that." So I brought it back here, and you can see it. It's in a little glass reliquary. I prefer that you don't touch it. And the olive branch here, you can see it afterwards. You can touch the reliquary, but please don't open it, because we're keeping the energy as it is. And when we went to the Wadi Asiya, which was the Essene holy ruins that were in the ravine near there, I found something that I never even dreamed of finding. In the picture of Mother Mary that I didn't know they had roses except Rose of Sharon in the Holy Lands. There were the roses growing in Wadi Asiya, in the Essene ruins, that were wild roses, and here's a picture of them. Go to the next one, please. See them here where I painted them? This was decades ago. And you see the trees in the background? They don't grow like that in Israel elsewhere. That was Mount Carmel. And I knew with thorough conviction in my heart that Mother Mary must have come there with the infant Christ. But the only record we have is of them moving on into Egypt, into exile. Well, guess what? The Carmelites do have the record. And it is public knowledge, but people don't know, but it's been published, that she came there with Joseph on her way into Egypt to escape Herod. And that's what this picture is. Next one. Even the colors of the rocks reflected her gown and her costume, the soft pinks and the blues. Go ahead. But only there. Now, Gary was under the weather. I'm having dinner in this huge room. Everybody that was on bus trips had gone home. I was just there by myself, and there was the sisters. And God said to me, "Invite that woman from America over to sit with you." And I thought, "Lord, she's so loud. I don't know if I can do it. She's very aggressive. And so God said, invite her over there. When there's silence, you know, we're waiting. So I invited her to sit next to me. And she's a devout Carmelite, and she's establishing her own Carmelite church in New Jersey. She's not a sister. However, because she was doing this, the sisters gave to her an actual little reliquary, a relic of Mother Mary's robe and Joseph's robe. And she said to me, I want you to hold this. And this is a picture of that robe. I wish it was more in focus. A little piece, pea-size. And she said, I don't understand why it's black and white though. And the sisters couldn't even tell me why. And I said, you see those Sisters Superior over there wearing black and white? In the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was the Essene tradition that they wear white whenever they're engaging in group ceremonies or going through the path. But when they become high initiates, the Mother Superior's robes were black and white. Just like they are today. And there it is. And no, I'm not Catholic, I'm universal. But this is a very interesting coincidence. And I felt so blessed that Mother Mary was saying, yes, you're on the right path. Please go ahead. And there's where you can see the faces have been broken. We need to restore this. Go ahead. That's Stella Maris. And this is some of the iridized glass that they already had in their museum of things that they had found around Mount Carmel of ancient Roman iridized glass that were reliquaries, but the one I found is flat and it's a window pane. Go ahead. And here we are, standing in the garden at Stella Maris, and you can see this strange blue light starting to emanate at the bottom of the picture. It's really beautiful there. Go ahead. And this is a picture of Mother Mary with the Jesus in the high altar in the sanctuary. Thank you. One more. This is the Baha'i garden. Liz is looking down at the Baha'i center. And I dare say that if all of Islam had become Baha'i, we would not be dealing with any of the atrocities or potential for cataclysmic war that we're dealing with today. Go ahead. Now this is really important for those of you who know about ley lines. I know a few of you probably don't know what a ley line is. Just as our body has acupuncture centers and meridians that are where our bioenergy field flows the most strongly, our vital force, the earth has the same thing. The earth has meridians, and they are measurable as electromagnetic energy fields. The ancients, pre-Diluvian ancients, knew how to harness them for a high technology that we haven't caught on to yet, although Nikola Tesla knew how. Basically, it is the life force flowing along these meridians. Well, each meridian, as it turns out, has a whole series of holy sites of ancient times that run along the meridians. The major meridian for the world is known as the St. Michael Mother Mary ley line. As far as we can tell, it starts in the upper left-hand corner at Glastonbury. It runs down through Mont Saint-Michel, that's Archangel Michael, a couple of those sites in Lyon and the sacred sites in France. Comes down through the area that is Turin, Italy, where the Shroud of Turin is kept, down through Delphi and Rhodes, where the oracles were, and guess where it terminates? Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel is the central vortex for the Archangel Michael Mother Mary ley line for the world. Now, what's on the other side of Mount Carmel? The ley line intersects Armageddon. You aren't going to hear this anywhere else. Very few people on the planet even know this. So what happens is when we pray where there is a sacred site that is the center for all the other sacred sites, connecting all of them, it is like a spiritual antenna that sends a powerful force of love and healing and unity all throughout. Everything connected to that site and everything connected to all the other sites when it's the central one. That is the reason why Mount Carmel is the holiest mountain in the world. The buck stops there. So if we can anchor the light on Mount Carmel, we can help to avert World War III. And I am here to tell you this today so that you can support us, whether it be in prayer. And when I ask you to pray and to meditate, I want you to see not the problem, not to focus on the issue, but focus on what's going to heal it. Take a look at pictures of the world leaders of those different countries. Visualize them shaking hands. It's really hard, but you can visualize them hugging. Visualize them bowing to each other. Visualize the white light of God between them, unifying them. We will be taking another trip to Mount Carmel this spring, and everybody who is so inspired is welcome to come. We'll need 22 people. Whatever does not come from this country or from those contacts throughout the world, I would like you to network. If you know somebody who is particularly good at healing or planetary healing, you don't have to be, but that's what we need. Please invite them, please inform them, please share this tape with them on the website so that they can be informed. And we'll be having Raphael probably bring more people. He's always happy to bring more people for us. But we're going to do it. Okay, next one. Is that it? Okay, we can turn the lights back on, please, Lloyd. I've been working with some of the best intuitives in our country to form a group called Oracles United. They have a history of accurate predictions. It is the thankless job of the prophet to warn people what's to come and then to get them to do what has to be done to avert the worst and prove themselves wrong. And so that's what we're doing. And the Oracles United are going to sponsor an event here in Virginia Beach. Most of the people here may not know in Virginia Beach how important this area is. Those of you who are involved with Edgar Cayce know that he said it was the only seaport of the spiritual white brotherhood. We know it is the main seaport for the entire East Coast. And this area has a connection to the earliest history of mankind and the children of the Law of One. Just right off in Virginia Beach, not even the other cities surrounding it. And so we're going to bring the oracles together, and everybody else who is involved in planetary healing, and everybody else who wants to be a part of world peace here next fall in 2016. We've only got a couple of years to make this right. I want to ask everybody here to help in this effort, to invite people to come. Whether we have to rent the pavilion or scope or whatever we're going to do, I hope it will be here, Sandler Center, the pavilion. We will have a meeting. And Laura Leslie Jackson, who is here today and is going to play the flute for us in a minute, she has offered to help us with PR and marketing and fundraising, and that's her expertise. God has sent so many people just in the last week to help with this, and we're going to need a lot more. We're one small church, but we have incredible sincerity here, and that sincerity and that purity of heart is amplified 1,000,000-fold. So I ask you now, are you with me to help?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you would get in touch with Mary or Laura, who's here to play the flute, as well as help with that. In the back, we have a sign-up sheet for anybody who wants to sign up to be on our mailing list. If you would like to go to Mount Carmel and the rest of Israel, we'll probably attach another week for the rest of Israel's sacred sites in the spring, probably April. Please put a C next to your name. If you're interested in participating and supporting the United Oracles, please let us know that too and give us at least your email. And now I want to lead you to a meditation that is a secret meditation until now that will help facilitate and enliven your spiritual being. I believe in doing what works. This is what works for me. This is what has worked for many of the children of the Law of One in the past. But you should do what works for you. And I want to offer this up to you because we have no corner on the market. It will speed up your spiritual evolution. That I can guarantee if you do it regularly. And it'll bring about a greater attunement. Okay, if you would, first of all, I want to show you the breathing. When you do the breathing for this, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. You're going to inhale through your nose, the color that we're breathing in, mouth closed, and then you're going to exhale through your mouth, like this. But instead of keeping your head straight, you're going to inhale, head back, no strain, and then exhale, head down. What you're doing is you're creating a pumping action that raises the Kundalini, the life force, the light of God within you, gradually and naturally. And now if you'll close your eyes, uncross your limbs, you can put your hands together on your lap if you wish. Just be comfortable and relaxed. And closing our eyes, we're going to go through the colors that are the spectrum that combined creates the white light of God and harmony within us. So first we're going to inhale through our nose, visualizing ourselves in a glowing, radiant, light red light. Inhale red and exhale. This is the color of passion that you need to do anything effectively. It needs to be focused on the highest good. Then we're going to inhale the color orange and exhale through the mouth. This is the color of expectancy and vitality, which we need, and the balancing of the generative and regenerative forces. Then inhale the color yellow and exhale. This is the color of joy, of optimism. Inhale the color green and exhale. This is the color of balance, the color of nature, the color of revitalization and growth. And feel this in your being. Inhale the color blue and exhale. See yourself in that Mother Mary blue, or whatever shade of blue you like. See yourself in the blue light, knowing that it is bringing the devotion in your heart that you need to let nothing else stand in your way of doing what you know to be right. Inhale the color purple and exhale. This is also the violet fire of transmutation, and you can visualize it blazing and blazing and blazing away all negativity, everything that does not serve your highest good and the highest good of the planet. And now inhale and visualize the white light of God coming into your being from the top of your head down to your feet. And exhale. And I want you now to just rest and be at peace and just be in the white light for a few moments. I want you to take that white light that's in your heart now and say, I am whole, I am filled with light, I am perfect, I am filled with light. Nothing but good can come to me, nothing but good will go from me. I give thanks, I give thanks, I give thanks. And taking that light that's all within you now, containing all the colors of the universe, all the love, wisdom, and power that's flowing to you from God, from your source, whatever you call that, I am presence. I want you to send that out to everybody in this room, horizontally coming out, white light coming down through your head, into your heart, into your solar plexus, down to your feet, and coming out from you, emanating to everybody in the room. And now beyond that, everybody in Virginia Beach. And now beyond that, feel that pressure of light moving out through the entire state of Virginia. And beyond that, the entire country. See yourself like in a satellite, looking down at America, seeing that white light of God all throughout America. And from America, all over to the Middle East, and from the Middle East, embracing the planet. Feel the godparents in your heart, loving, holding, caring for our beloved, precious planet Earth, our mother. Because that's all that matters right now. Everything else in life pales by comparison to this. This is all that matters. So each day we will take time to bless the earth, our nation, and ourselves with this white light. always remembering we are whole, we are filled with light, we are perfect, we are filled with light. Nothing but good can come to us, nothing but good shall go from us. We give thanks, we give thanks, we give thanks. Divine substance is the only reality. Divine substance fills our every need. Divine substance fills our life with peace, health, happiness, abundance, and true love. And so it is. And now you can breathe in, come back into this room. 3 deep breaths, bring yourself back into your body. If anybody's not here yet, don't touch them, let them be. Thank you, my dear spiritual family, my brothers and sisters. Thank you for this opportunity to present this to you, to share with you, and hopefully inspire you to heal this world. God bless.